She leaned over me, whispered something I'll never forget. The war ended in silence. Not with celebration. Not with victory cries, just silence spreading across the stars, like a slow shadow. Humanity had fought harder than anyone expected. Faster. Smarter. Louder. But the galaxy was vast, and humanity was still young. When the final human fleet retreated back toward Sol, the war was officially declared paused. Not ended. Paused, like a thought waiting to be finished. Elikor Kane did not retreat. He stayed behind on purpose. Captured during the last engagement near the dead moon of Karis, he became something rare, a living human in alien hands. The aliens called themselves the Varun Collective. Tall, pale, calm beings with long limbs and eyes like polished stone. They did not scream. They did not rage. They believed emotion was weakness. That was why they were curious about humans. Elior sat inside a transparent chamber made of smooth, colorless material. No bars, no chains. Just an invisible pressure field that gently reminded him he could not leave. The room was silent except for a low hum that never stopped. He had been there for 12 days. No torture. No shouting. No threats. That worried him more than pain ever could. They observed him. Every breath. Every blink. Every time his fingers moved, even when he thought he was still. He knew this because sometimes the lights shifted slightly when his heart rate changed. They were watching his mind. Elior Kane had once been a strategist for the United Earth Defense Coalition. Not a soldier on the front line, but a man who planned battles, predicted enemy movements, and studied patterns. Now he was the pattern. The door slid open without a sound. She entered. Ella did not know her rank at first, but he could tell she was important. The way others moved out of her path said enough. She was taller than him, with silver-gray skin and dark markings along her temples. Her eyes were calm, but not cold. Curious. Focused. This was Valeth. She stopped a few steps from the chamber and studied him the way a scientist studies a strange equation. Human Elior Kane, she said, her voice smooth and perfectly translated by the device around his neck. You have not spoken today. Elior looked up slowly. His movements were deliberate, controlled. I already answered your questions, he said. Yes, Valeth replied. But you did not react. Elior almost smiled. You keep waiting for me to beg, he said. Or shout, or threaten you. That is how most species behave, she said simply. And when they don't? Elior asked. Valeth tilted her head slightly. Then they are dangerous in ways we do not yet understand. That was honest. Elior leaned back against the invisible wall of his chamber and crossed his arms. His clothes were simple now, gray fabric, no insignia, no rank. But he carried himself like someone who still had authority, even in captivity. You already won the war, he said. Why keep me? Because you lost, she answered, and yet your species does not behave like defeated ones. That made him pause. She activated a small device, and the transparent wall faded away. The pressure field remained, but the barrier was gone. Elier did not move. Interesting, Valith thought. She stepped into the chamber, now standing only an arm's length from him, close enough that he could see faint lines along her skin, signs of age or experience. "You are not afraid?" she said. "I am," Elior replied calmly. "I just don't let fear decide my actions." Valith considered that. Most species screamed when she entered their space. Some attacked, some cried, some shut down completely. Humans observed back. She circled him slowly. "Your military tactics were illogical," she said. "You sacrificed entire fleets to delay us. You retreated when victory was possible. You protected civilian worlds instead of strategic assets." Elier followed her with his eyes. "Because we weren't trying to win battles," he said. "We were trying to survive the war." Silence filled the chamber again. Then she leaned forward. Very slowly. Her face came close to his ear. So close he could feel the warmth of her breath, soft and steady. The room's sensors flickered. And then she whispered, "Your species is impossible to predict." Elior's heart skipped once. Not because of fear, because of understanding. She straightened and stepped back as if nothing had happened. Elier turned his head slightly, eyes sharp now. "That's not what conquerors say," he replied. "No," Valith agreed. "It is what planners say." That changed everything. Over the next hours, Valith questioned him again, but the tone was different. Less forceful, more careful. She asked about human history, about wars humanity had lost, and what happened afterward. Elier told her the truth. He spoke of nations that rose stronger after defeat, of people who adapted, learned, and changed faster than their enemies expected. He spoke of cooperation born from crisis. "You believe loss makes you stronger," Valith said. "No," Elior corrected. "Loss makes us honest." That answer stayed with her. Later, when he was alone again, Elior replayed the whisper in his mind. Impossible to predict. That meant something huge. It meant their simulations were failing. It meant humanity had not been understood. And if that was true, then the war was far from over. In another chamber far above, Valith stood before a vast holographic display of human space. Red markers showed destroyed fleets. Yellow showed surviving systems. Blue dots flickered constantly. Adaptive behavior. Unstable models. She watched the data and felt something unfamiliar tighten inside her chest. Concern. Humans were not strong like the Zarn, not ancient like the Eldeth, not unified like the Varun, but they learned. And learning frightened her more than weapons ever could. Back in his chamber, Elier closed his eyes. He did not know if he would live, but he knew one thing with certainty. They were afraid, and fear meant humanity still had a future. The next day, the chamber felt different. Elier Kane woke to the same low hum, the same invisible pressure holding him in place, but the air felt warmer. Not physically warmer, nothing had changed, but the presence in the room was different. Valeth entered again. This time she carried no devices, no displays. Only her eyes sharp and thoughtful. "You survived the night," she said. "Humans always do," Elia replied. He sat up slowly, careful not to provoke the field, careful not to look desperate. "Some more than others." Valeth studied him. Her species believed in control, in observation, in predictability. But Elior Kane was neither controlled nor predictable. "You are calm," she said. Most species would break after one night alone. Most species scream, cry, or beg for release. "You talk." Elior shrugged. "You haven't asked the right questions yet." Valeth tilted her head, curiosity growing. She was not used to curiosity in captives. Most simply accepted their fate. Most obeyed. Not humans. She took a step closer. "Tell me, human, why do you speak so calmly when you know your species is losing?" Elior looked away for a moment, gazing at the smooth walls. "Because losing does not mean giving up." Valeth paused. "Most species do not understand the concept of resilience." "Humans seem to adapt." "Yes," he said. "We adapt. We learn. And we survive." She did not interrupt him. She allowed him to continue. "I have been captured before," Elior said. "Not like this, of course. But in war, captives are often broken. And yet, they rise again. Some do." "Most don't. Humans rise because survival is not just about strength. It's about thinking, planning, listening, and acting at the right time." Valeth's stone-like eyes narrowed. "Your species is not logical," she said quietly. "Your fleet should have collapsed weeks ago. Your strategy should have failed." "And yet, here you are." Elior smiled faintly. "Maybe you underestimated what humans are capable of when they work together." Valeth considered this. Most species did not work together. Most species followed a hierarchy and obeyed commands without question. But humans argued, debated, even disobeyed, yet somehow produced results no model could predict. She had spent weeks running simulations of human behavior. Thousands of outcomes. All incorrect. Every single time. That whisper she had given him yesterday returned to her mind. Impossible to predict. It was true. Humans could not be predicted, not by force, not by intimidation, not by logic. She decided to test him. "You speak of humans rising," she said, stepping closer until her shadow fell across him. "Tell me what you would do if you were free right now." Elior leaned back, eyes calm. "Not soldiers, not fleets. People, scientists, engineers, civilians. Everyone with skills and ideas. Then we would study your weaknesses, not to attack, but to survive." Valeth did not move. Her mind calculated, analyzed, compared. She had never heard a captive speak like this. Most captives begged for mercy. Most begged for life. Elor Kane didn't either. He spoke of survival with patience and clarity. She took another step. His gaze followed hers, unafraid, unshaken. "You think survival is enough?" she asked. "No," Alior said, "but it is the beginning." A silence fell over the chamber. Valeth did not ask more questions. She did not interrupt. She let the silence stretch. She studied him, not as a prisoner, but as a strategist, a thinker. Human? And she realized something terrifying. Humans survived not because they were stronger, faster, or more numerous, but because they thought differently. Violet left then, but the chamber felt heavier after she stepped out. Her presence lingered. Her words lingered. Impossible to predict. Elier spent the rest of the day pacing, testing the invisible walls, observing every sensor he could detect. He had no weapons, no allies, yet he did not despair. Humans were survivors. And survivors learned quickly. That evening, a second visitor arrived. Not Valeth this time, but a lesser officer, a Varun named Sarel. "You are to provide information," Sorel said flatly. "All human strategic positions." "Ah, your fleet, your colonies, your weaknesses." Elier shook his head. "I am a strategist, yes. But I am not a traitor to my species." Sarel's voice softened slightly, almost with curiosity. "Why do you speak so calmly?" "Most humans panic. Most humans give in. You do not—" "I do not believe in panic," Elier said simply. "Panic solves nothing. Observation solves everything." Sarel frowned. "Observation? Yes," Elier said. "By watching, listening, and learning, you can survive more than by fighting." "Humans are good at observing. Sometimes too good." The Varun officer hesitated. No one had ever spoken to him like that. No one had challenged him without fear, without anger. Valeth returned soon after. She had listened to the entire conversation from outside the chamber. Now she entered slowly, carefully. "You are teaching them," she said to Elior. "No," he replied. "I am teaching myself and learning from them. Every interaction is a lesson." Valeth's eyes narrowed. Humans always said strange things. Their language was often literal, often illogical, but somehow meaningful. "You think your words can influence my officers?" she asked. Elier shrugged. "I only speak the truth. What they do with it is up to them." Valeth studied him again, closer this time. Her face came near his ear, close enough that he could sense the rhythm of her breathing. "You are not afraid," she whispered. "I am," Elier replied honestly. "But fear does not control me." Her silence was long. She stepped back, pacing slowly around him, observing every movement. "You are teaching them patience," she said softly, "and caution." "I am teaching them nothing they do not already know," Elior said. "Humans are patient. Humans are cautious. But humans are also Relentless? That word, relentless, struck her. It was not in any simulation, any analysis, any report she had studied. Humans were relentless, unpredictable, dangerous, not because they were strong, but because they never stopped thinking, never stopped moving, never stopped trying. You think your species can survive what comes next? She asked. Yes, Elior said, because you cannot predict it. And you are about to find out that even when you think you understand us, you do not. Then she left without another word. The chamber felt colder when she left. But Elior felt lighter. For the first time in days, he believed humans had a chance. Later in the quiet, Elior closed his eyes. He thought about the fleet, scattered across the stars, hiding, repairing, learning. He thought about civilians, building, studying, surviving. He knew something others might not yet see. Humans could survive anything because they learned faster than any opponent could anticipate. And if Valeth had whispered, "Impossible to predict once," she would whisper it again. And maybe, just maybe, others in her species would start to listen. Because listening, Elior realized, was humanity's secret weapon. Not weapons. Not numbers. Not speed. Just understanding and learning faster than anyone else. And that thought made him smile. The galaxy was quiet, but not empty. In the dark between stars, fleets drifted, silent and waiting. Hidden. Repairing. Learning. Elior Kane sat in his chamber, yet he felt less like a prisoner and more like a player in a game he had only just begun to understand. Valeth had not returned that day. Not immediately. That made him uneasy. But it also gave him time to think, and humans were best at thinking under pressure. He studied the chamber's walls carefully. Every sensor, every reflective surface, every hum and flicker of light. Humans could survive in impossible situations because they learned fast. And Elior had a plan. He would test the aliens' assumptions, not by attacking, not by fleeing, but by forcing them to listen, because listening often led to mistakes. Valeth entered late that night. Her movements were careful, deliberate, as though she were testing herself as much as testing him. "You speak to your officers again?" she asked. "Yes," Elior said. "I speak to anyone who will listen, even when they do not realize it." Valeth's eyes narrowed. "You teach them patience and caution, yet you speak boldly." "Boldness is only dangerous if you cannot follow through," Elior said. "Humans follow through." Valeth studied him. Something in his calm, confident tone was different from all other humans she had observed. He was not just surviving, he was planning. Always planning. And she realized something terrifying. The humans were thinking faster than her species could adapt. "You are confident your species will survive?" she asked again. "Yes," he said. "But it will not be easy. Not for anyone." Outside the chamber, the Varun Council discussed the next move. "We must remove this human," one of them said. "He is influencing officers and destabilizing our control. The fleet is waiting for final orders. We cannot risk delay." Valeth did not speak immediately. She had seen simulations fail. She had seen human behavior break all predictions. "They're not what we thought," she said finally. "They do not follow logic like other species." Eliminating one strategist may not stop them. In fact, she paused, it may make them stronger. The council ignored her warning. But Valeth had already begun planning quietly, observing humans not just as prisoners, but as potential variables in her own calculations. Back in the chamber, Elior noticed a subtle change. Sensors flickered differently. Small devices he had not seen before hummed softly. The aliens were adjusting. Learning. Perfect. He allowed himself a small smile. Humans had a long history of turning observation into advantage. He began speaking to Valeth, carefully, deliberately, planting ideas she might consider. "You study us, to understand us," he said. "But you observe what you expect. You do not yet see what we will do next." Valeth paused, taken aback. No human had ever said that to her. "What will you do?" she asked. "I will survive," he said simply. "We always do. And survival teaches humans many things. Things you cannot simulate, things no council can predict. You see patterns, yes? But you do not understand them fully until you experience them." Her chest tightened. The words were not a threat, yet they felt like one. She had underestimated humans, not their weapons, but their minds. The next day, Valeth returned with another officer, this one higher ranked. His name was Terran, and he had authority over human prisoners. "You will provide all knowledge of human fleets?" Terran demanded. Elior shook his head calmly. "I have no such knowledge. Your records are incomplete." "My people are scattered, and you will not find them unless you understand the way humans think." Terran's eyes flicked nervously. Valeth noticed. Something in Elior's voice caused hesitation. Doubt? "You speak as though humans are more than a collection of survivors," Terran said. "More than you understand," Elior replied. Valeth stepped closer. Her face hovered near his ear, just like before. "If I free you, will your people destroy us?" she whispered. Eliar considered her question carefully. "Not destroy," he said, "but challenge. And if challenged, they adapt. Always. That is what you should fear. Not our weapons, not our fleets, but our ability to learn." Valeth recoiled slightly. Her species did not often encounter this kind of honesty. And yet, she felt a strange admiration. Hours passed. Elior thought quietly, testing the limits of the chamber. He noticed that one sensor responded slower than the others. Another flickered intermittently. Small, almost imperceptible differences in the monitoring system. Humans turned small observations into strategies. Always. By nightfall, Valeth returned again. But this time, she did not speak immediately. She simply watched, her presence heavy with thought. "You have influenced your own captors," she said finally. "Not influenced," Elior said. "Observed. And spoken." You cannot separate the two. What you see changes how you act. That is how humans learn. We do not need to fight directly to win. Observation and understanding are our greatest tools. Violet's eyes narrowed. He was teaching her something she had never learned from any other species, and that terrified her more than a fleet of weapons. "You will not survive this," she said softly, almost to herself. "Perhaps," Ella replied, "but survival is never guaranteed. And yet we try anyway. That is what makes us dangerous." Valeth leaned closer again, whispering near his ear. "You are relentless," she said. "Yes," Elier said. "Relentless, yes, but also patient. Always patient." Her chest tightened again. Relentless, patient, unpredictable. Every word he spoke echoed in her mind. Humans were not strong in the traditional sense. They were strong in ways her species could not calculate. Later, as Violet left, she did something no Varun officer had ever done before. She deactivated one part of the chamber's sensors temporarily. Not for Elior's benefit, not as mercy, but to observe what he would do without being fully watched. Elior noticed immediately. He paused, smiled slightly. Humans always noticed when someone underestimated them. He tested the chamber carefully. No sudden moves, just observation. The sensors reactivated automatically after a few minutes. But the point was made. The watchers could be watched. The next day, Elior received news indirectly. Valeth had started questioning the council's decisions. She did not speak openly, but her actions suggested doubt. The humans, scattered and defeated, were slowly adapting. Repairs on small ships had begun. Communications were being restored. Scientists were organizing covertly. Civilians were being evacuated from contested systems, all without a single large fleet engagement. Humans were surviving and growing stronger. Valeth returned to Alir. This time she did not lean close. She stopped several feet away, watching him carefully. "You are teaching your species in ways you do not realize," she said. "No," Elier said. "I am teaching myself. And I am learning from you. Every word, every pause, every observation. Humans learn from everything." Valeth studied him for a long moment. "I thought fear would control you. I thought loss would destroy you. And yet, here you are." Calm, observant, patient, because fear is useful only if it teaches you something, Elier said. Loss is useful only if it reminds you what is important. She stared at him, silence stretching between them. And in that silence, Valeth realized something crucial. Humans were not just unpredictable. They were transformative. Observation itself became their tool. Every encounter taught them something new. Every challenge made them stronger. The galaxy may have thought it had captured a single strategist, but in truth, the strategist was already turning the observers into the observed. That night, Elier closed his eyes. For the first time in weeks, he allowed himself to plan freely. Not just to survive. Not just to endure, but to prepare. Humans would rise again. Slowly, quietly. But inevitably. And when the Varun Council realized they had underestimated them, it might already be too late, because humans learned faster than anyone else. And they never stopped. The galaxy had not seen the last of humanity. The galaxy was waiting, not for war, not for victory, not for fear. It was waiting for humans to return. Elior Kane stepped into the corridor outside his chamber. The air was cold, sterile, but he did not feel trapped. He had learned too much. Observed too carefully, planned too well. The door ahead slid open silently. Valeth waited on the other side. Her posture was the same as always, calm, precise, but her eyes held a flicker of doubt, a flicker of something else. "You are ready," she said. "I have always been ready," Elior replied. Valeth studied him for a long moment. "I have made a choice," she said. "A dangerous one. I am releasing you. Not because your species deserves freedom, but because my council will not see what I see. You cannot be stopped the way they plan, and I cannot watch what will happen if you die here." Elior tilted his head. "And what happens to you? I will answer to my own people," Valeth said. "If I am wrong, I will face the consequences. But I am not wrong." "Humans are different, and you have a way of making others see what they cannot calculate." Elior stepped forward. "Then let us begin." Outside the walls of the facility, the galaxy had grown quiet but uneasy. Reports of scattered human activity had reached the Varun Council. Fleets thought destroyed were hidden. Civilian colonies had re-established communication. Scientists were organizing covertly. Engineers were repairing ships. All of it, invisible to the Council. All of it, unnoticed by those who assumed humanity was broken. Humans did not seek vengeance. They did not rush blindly into battle. They observed. They learned. They waited. And now, with Elior Kane free, a single strategist could coordinate them in ways the galaxy had never expected. Valeth led him through secure corridors. Sensors that once monitored him now ignored him completely. Guards passed by, unaware that he was moving freely. "You have changed," she said quietly as they walked. "Your calm, your strategy, it has affected me." And others. "I have already begun altering the reports to the Council. They will believe you are dead." Elior nodded. "Good. That gives us time. Time to prepare. Time to unite." Valeth glanced at him. "You trust me?" "I trust what you understand," he said. "Humans survive by recognizing allies, even unexpected ones." She considered that. Humans were unpredictable, yes, but they were also observant. They could read people. Not perfectly, but often enough to make a difference. And Valeth realized she had become one of those observed. Together, they moved through the facility to the hidden docks, where small human ships had been repaired. Hidden among wreckage and abandoned stations, these vessels had been rebuilt quietly, each one equipped with improved systems and clever adaptations learned from Varun technology. Elior observed the ships. checking systems and making small adjustments. Every human he had trained, even indirectly from his cell, was already prepared, coordinated, organized. "They learn quickly," Vela said. "They always do," Elior replied. A small team of human engineers and pilots greeted him. Their eyes were tired but alert, every movement precise, every action deliberate. "Sir Kane," one of them said, "we've been waiting for your orders." Elior smiled faintly. "Orders will come. But first, observe. Learn what your enemy expects of you, and then do the opposite." The humans nodded. It was not a military order alone. It was a principle. Adapt, survive, outthink. Meanwhile, Valith returned to the council chambers. Her presence drew attention, suspicion, and unease. "Where is the prisoner?" one council member demanded. Violeth remained calm. "Executed," she said simply. The council nodded. No further questions. They believed her. But Valeth had already falsified the logs. Elior Kane was alive. Free. And the humans would not wait for approval. They would act on intelligence, observation, and strategy. She did not anticipate the consequences fully. She only knew humans were different, unpredictable, dangerous. And she had chosen to side with unpredictability. Back on the ships, Elior coordinated a network of human units spread across contested sectors. Small fleets, hidden stations, and civilian transport ships all moved in silent patterns, exchanging information and resources. They did not attack. "Not yet," they observed. They learned. They prepared. Elior addressed his team, voice calm but firm. "We do not need to fight their fleet directly. They expect us to act with panic. They expect revenge. We will act with thought, precision, coordination. Every move we make will teach them something they do not yet understand." The team nodded, energized by his words. Humans thrived under challenge, and they were given the ultimate challenge: survive and grow stronger under observation. Weeks passed. The Varun Council grew restless. Reports indicated no change, no retaliation, no threat. They underestimated humans. Elior's plan unfolded perfectly. Small, targeted disruptions of supply lines. Sabotage of poorly protected installations. Quick intelligence gathering without exposure. Every move was calculated to maximize information, minimize risk, and prepare humans for the eventual confrontation. Valeth watched from the shadows, her faith in Elior growing. Humans were not warriors in the traditional sense. They did not dominate through brute force. They dominated through understanding, adaptation, observation. And in every action, she saw the truth of her whisper from weeks before. Impossible to predict. Finally, the time came. Elior had gathered humans across multiple systems. Small fleets, scientists, civilians, all coordinated through hidden networks. The Varun assumed humans were weak. They assumed they could be crushed in a single strike. But humans were not waiting for a strike. They were creating the battlefield. Every sensor, every patrol, Every communication channel was manipulated subtly. The Varun forces found themselves reacting to humans rather than humans reacting to them. It was not brute force. It was strategy. And humans excelled at strategy. Valith watched from a distant observation post. She felt a strange mixture of fear and admiration. The humans were winning without fighting openly. Their victory was quiet, precise, and inevitable. They have adapted beyond what we calculated, she said to herself. Impossible to predict, she whispered again. At the edge of the contested sector, Elor finally addressed the humans under his coordination. This is not revenge, he said. This is not conquest. This is survival and respect. You have learned, adapted, and grown stronger than any opponent imagined. Move carefully. Think clearly, and always remember, the galaxy underestimates us. That is our advantage. Humans nodded. They understood. They were ready. And for the first time in generations, the galaxy began to notice humanity again, not as a conquered species, but as one to be respected, feared, and studied. Valith returned to her post, silent. She had seen something she never expected, a species rising not by force, but by intelligence, observation, and the simple, relentless ability to learn. Humans were no longer predictable. They were a force that could not be calculated, controlled, or ignored. And in that moment, she understood the truth of what she had whispered to Elior Kane so long ago. Impossible to predict. Elior Kane stood on the bridge of the rebuilt human vessel, staring at the stars. He thought about what the Council of Varun had assumed, about what the galaxy had expected. Humans had survived, adapted, learned, and now they would define the next era. Not through weapons alone, not through fleets, not through fear, through intelligence, observation, coordination, and the relentless pursuit of understanding. And the galaxy, for the first time in centuries, knew humanity could not be ignored. Elior smiled faintly and whispered to himself, as if confirming a secret the universe had yet to realize. We are humans, and we always find a way.